Hi, how are you? I have questions for you before we leave tonight.
Good ones?
Yeah. Yes, yes.
Okay. Got everything shut off, locked down.
Ray, how are you?
How you doing? Long time no see.
I
Where you been hiding?
Well, let's see. When I missed the last meeting, I was trying to get to Florida. I never made it. I made it to Baltimore after being rerouted to Greensboro. Airport the next day, and they canceled my flight for 4 days. So I'm stuck. Wow. I never made it.
Oh my gosh. Was that when all the airport stuff was going on?
And then to retrieve my bag,
Because you were.
they had, when they finally shut off and closed everything, they closed 400 flights.
All right, call this regular meeting and work session. The Town of Parker Common Council to order. Please mute your electronic devices. We have roll call of council.
Mayor Hartless.
Here.
Vice Mayor Lucas, absent. Councilmember Shantz.
Here.
Councilmember Daniels.
Present.
Councilmember De Leon.
Here.
Councilmember Waddell. Here. Councilmember Hooper, absent.
All right, we are here for a work session to discuss ordinance 632 livestock and poultry and fowl. Nora.
Yes, so we're here tonight. Several years ago, we looked at this ordinance and we changed a few things in it. We were asked again if we could review this 632 poultry and livestock. So we also put kind of a little proposed, I guess, ordinance together with a few changes in here. I say we, Chief Bailey and I, and the FFA leader, the 4-H person, and also for the livestock president, kind of went over a lot of this. This is basically, you've seen this kind of thing before, like I said, several years ago, but we think it's worth bringing back to you. And I know that the community is really looking at this. We kind of got a little bit of a late start. I was hoping to get it to you prior to 4-H getting good and started, but here we are today. I'm going to kind of have Chief also chime in here, and if it's okay with you, Mayor, if any of the audience would like to speak on this as well.
Yeah, I'm
This
sure
is a
that's why
work
they're here,
session.
right?
This is, so,
Fine.
you know, you don't need to fill out a little piece of paper. You just come on up and kind of join in. Some of the basic things that we'd like to change is the length of time that we have the animals, or the kids can have the animals. We're finding that if they have a steer, they have to get them a little sooner than the dates that we have in our ordinance now. Same with lambs and goats. So we wanted to stretch that out a little bit. We also felt like that some of our lots in town could house 1 or 2 more large animals than what we have allowed right now, based on their square footage of what the animal needs, how big the home is, and how large the lot is. You get these families that have 3 and 4, some 5 children, and it's, we want them to all be able to participate. So we've kind of gone from a maximum of 3 to a maximum of 4, and kind of helped in that direction.
So these yellow items are things you've added.
No, the yellow items on this sheet are things that Debbie Pettigrew would like to add to those. Those were not necessarily the things that we as a group discussed.
So they're currently not in our
They are currently
policy.
not in,
Okay,
no.
got it.
This sheet here is the current ordinance. This is the this one here would be your current.
Okay, that's a current.
Half page. The proposed one looks like this. It has a lot of the same things that are in our ordinance now, but also a few. Another big change would be that the pens would have to be set back 5 feet from the setbacks of your yard. If it's on a property line that is a neighbor, is a residential. So if it's on the alley side, it could go right up against the property line. But if it's the neighbor, and then no closer than 30 feet from a residential structure, a neighbor's residential structure. Not their garage, not their tool shed or whatever that might be, but their residence. You don't want it too close to that.
That's from the neighbors, not
From the
from
neighbors,
theirs.
correct. Not from yours. You want it in your backyard, though? That's something you choose. So those are kind of the big changes in here. Did you have anything you wanted to share? We did want to continue with the permit, the kids getting the permit, and asking the neighbors around there, not necessarily having the kids get signatures from the neighbors, but they need to get some permission from the neighbors around them.
Well,
How do you get that?
yeah, what would that entail?
I don't like that part.
No, I just want to know if it's signatures or.
No,
if
no,
you
we
get a
wouldn't
yea
want
or
the
nay.
signatures, but I know with my kids, I would make them go knock on the neighbor's door and, hey, I'm gonna have an animal. These are the times I'm gonna have it.
Like that would be something that they could take up with like their organization.
It would be, right,
Set in stone, you know?
I think more of a common courtesy,
Common
like,
courtesy,
hey,
correct.
I
Let
just want to let
people
you
know.
know I'm gonna have a cow.
The
But
yeah,
if I've been fighting with my neighbors for 15 years and now
Yeah.
I want to steer, they're obviously gonna be like, no,
That doesn't
Yeah.
happen in Parker.
never.
In the current ordinance, it does say you have to have permission with your neighbors. The
Yes.
revised ordinance that we worked on with, I think it was 6 months, that we worked with livestock, with 4-H, FFA, and the town of Parker. We kind of came to a collective agreement to make these changes. The current, like I said, the current ordinance says you have to have permission. With the revised one, it says you have to notify your neighbors within 100 feet of your project, not your house, but the project. And in the revised ordinance, it does say that the child or the parents, whatever it is, provides contact information for the 4-H leader or FFA leader. If there's any issues, it's a phone number, email, and the name. So if they have any issues, they can contact the organization, and they can also contact the town of Parker. Again, like I said, we did change it because exactly that point. If you're feuding with your neighbors or you have petty disagreements, whatever, the neighbor can be, you know what, I don't want you to do it.
Yeah.
You can have all 12 neighbors say yes, and there's one holdout. Well, that's going to torpedo your whole project.
Yeah, my Uncle
So-
Bob and your grandpa
Exactly.
got in a bar fight 27 years ago, and no, so.
But it does say notify, it's
Just
not neighbor
notification.
permission. It's not neighbor permission, it's just notify your neighbors
It
with
actually
the
did.
information.
Courtesy.
Correct,
Common
correct.
courtesy for sure.
Can we rule that down to say written or verbal notification?
It's a written notification of, you provide information, written notification to your neighbors.
Okay.
The biggest, the other section is the length of time. Currently, I think it's 180 days for all animals. The majority of the kids that do show don't just show in the La Paz County Fair. They show at various jackpot shows around the state. They show at the Arizona State Fair, which is in October. They also show at Arizona Nationals. Now, we can't account for every little jackpot that pops up around the state or in other states, but we did kind of account for the ones that are calendared every year. I think you have, and Kristen can tell me more about this, you have one in Tucson area, there's one, I think, in Phoenix, there's one up north, there's like 4 or 5 that were calendared that we did this with these dates in mind.
But they go all year round?
Correct.
That's kind of my comment right now.
Yeah, please come up.
And first of all, I really appreciate
Yeah, could you come up, Kristen?
yeah, please, sorry.
Kristen Nelson. First of all, I want to say I appreciate your guys' willingness to relook at these ordinances because they really restricted what the youth were able to do legally the last couple of years. And a comment that I wanted to make to add on to Mr. Bailey's, Chief Bailey.
We have other names
Dr.
for it,
Bailey.
Kristen, we have.
It's about having a time restriction is I feel very strongly that there should not be a time restriction. And if you're looking at the proposed ordinances, it's under E in section D. And it says any exhibitor showing an animal at the Arizona State Fair may apply for a special use permit to house an animal that will be used for the Arizona State Fair. And then I suggest that it is stricken that will be valid July 1st through October 31st, so that is stricken. And then we put a comma and add for a show circuit or as a breeding project. And the note you can read there, but there are a lot of shows that are year-round. And when you restrict that time frame, you're restricting the amount of time that the child can have the project and get it ready. Just because the show is in July, you need the animal before that. So that would be my comment.
So just to follow up, you're basically saying you want an animal that can stay in your backyard year-round?
With a purpose.
And a purpose,
Yes.
Not just
Okay.
to raise to eat later on or something.
because I am thinking of a case here recently where a pig was in the backyard for no good reason. It shouldn't have been there. Had nothing to do with the kid, had nothing to do with the project.
Was it the senior center thing?
Yes, so,
So this is strictly just for the youth program. In fact, this
Right.
is all under the exemption under, it was under C for the exemptions under the current proposed, our current ordinance. So this again is not for if you're raising pigs or steers or goats for meat. This is just for youth programs.
To be very clear.
Big issue we have, like Nora was saying, was the current ordinance limits the amount of kids. So if you've got 4 kids, pick your favorite 3 that can show animals. This allows for, if you've got, we're not gonna count for, a family that has 12, 15 kids, but if you've got more than 3 kids and they all wanna do a large stock, we do have the proposed change to make it where it's 4 large stock pens. Now, it can be 1 steer, 3 pigs, it could be a steer, pig, a lamb, and a goat, whatever it is, whatever the combination you have it there. On a standard 7,500 square foot lot. The addition to this, if you have multiple parcel lots, and I'll use Kristen as an example, where you guys have 3, so you can have an additional 1 additional pin per extra parcel. So in their case, they could have up to 6 pins within their property. Just doing some research, if I recall correctly, back when we started this, the industry standard, and I'll use a steer because that's the largest one there, was a 10 by 10 or 10 by 20 pin is sufficient for 1 animal per pen if you are feeding it. I know it was brought up in the past that certain counties and areas limit 1 or 2 head of cattle per acre. That's if you're doing open range. If you're not supplementing the feeding, this is you're feeding it. That is the size of pen is plenty big enough.
Are there things where they identify fair projects, FFA groups, or that to?
What do you mean, if
separate
who
it
does?
from Range animals to project animals.
So that would be more of a, if you own it, if you're the one like, hey, I'm gonna just open range, obviously you have to have the amount of land that can sustain the amount of animals you have on that. But if you're feeding it, you're not relying on, grassland or whatnot, you're taking care of that. It's
That's
just,
that 10 by 10.
yeah,
The
10 foot by
permits
10
we're
foot, 10 by
allowing are
20.
only for 4-H FFA projects, right?
With the amendment, it would be 4 large pens per 7,500 square foot parcel.
But yeah, for the youth.
but a special permit may be
For
issued.
year-round projects.
This whole change is for youth program only. It's not for, I'm raising meat or I want to have a pet, whatever.
I
it is.
just
This is
wanted that
just
on record.
youth only,
Does
for
that
youth
current
programs
one
only.
have, where it says it's only for youth? I'm not,
So on the original ordinance, you can see there's I think C is the exemption
C.
for youth program on the current ordinance. I don't have it in front of me here, the way it reads, but I believe it's C or D.
Swanee cattle project.
I think item 2 is really important, and that is how we should look at all of this, which is as long as the livestock is youth project and kept in a safe and clean manner.
Yeah. And
me,
again,
that-
this is incumbent on the parent, or the kids first, the parents, the organization, whether it be 4-H or FFA, okay? Because if a neighbor has an issue with this or the, pins, they then contact the contact information that they're given, correct? If it's not getting taken care of, then they would contact the town, then we would step in. We try to keep it, the neighbors to take care of themselves, if there's an issue, keep it within the family or the organization, whatever club they're part of. We don't want to get involved, but this would be more of a complaint-based type of deal. Obviously, we're not going to go out looking and inspecting. We will inspect prior to the animal being in the lot, but we're not going to go out there and try and catch someone, abusing this system.
Now, is that like you as the police?
City community
or
development.
Zoning?
Community development.
It would be code enforcement.
Code enforcement.
Yep.
And keeping in mind that there's already code in place to enforce things like noise,
Correct.
unsanitary conditions.
Correct.
Things like that. So it's like we don't have to rewrite the book just to create
Yes.
one more thing to enforce,
Keep in mind too, the argument is brought up about, well, I don't want to live next door to an animal being noisy or whatever, but, how many people have dogs in town? And how many dogs bark all night long? Well,
Yeah. There's
One
a
on
lot of
16th
those in my
Street,
neighborhood.
I'll tell you now, I would rather deal with a pig or a steer next to mine because these animals are not making noise unless they're either hungry, out of food, or something's wrong with them. Versus a dog is barking at a rock. My dog barks at rocks all the time or barks at moths because he's pointing at them and he can't get to them. These animals are relatively quiet. The biggest issue is going to be the smell if it's not clean, but then again, that falls on the leaders, the parents and the kids to do this. The other issue is, it brings flies. I can tell you right now, all summer long, how many times have you got millions of flies at your house, and I don't even have livestock. And
Yeah, there's no livestock near my house, and we have
It's
all
just- it
kinds of
is what it
flies in
is.
our backyard.
So this allows the kids to do more than what they have right now, but it also is, they need to add a responsibility to make sure that the pens are kept clean, their animals are kept clean, that they're keeping up on what they're supposed to be doing, and it kind of puts the position of the organization leaders to police this as well too.
Chief, what's your take on the permit fee?
On the fee,
Is there a fee? I didn't.
so we have a permit process right now. Honestly, if they're going through the process, the motions to get a permit, to subject themselves to being inspected on their property, why are we charging them a fee?
I
They
think
already
we
get charged
discussed this
everything.
years ago, and
Thank
part of what we talked about, I think Debbie was here,
Ability.
it's rolled into the project, like, the
Right.
kids doing the project, they know they have to get the animal, they have to get the permit, they have to pay the fee. Is the fee like
I think it's
$10?
like $5, honestly.
$5?
It's not even worth
It was
it.
20. I
I
only
don't know what it
asked
was.
because, yeah.
But we're not opposed to changing that and going
Part of their
lower.
responsibility,
Is it $0 now?
right, part of the
I
project.
guess there's no fee right now.
Fee right now?
I'm not opposed, I'm not charging a fee. I don't really care if we charge a fee. It's not like we're making money off
I
this.
do, I
It's
vote
more-
no.
What's that, vote no? Let's make it up.
On the record,
again-
I vote no, no fee.
These guys, it's already an expensive project. They're, especially if it's a breeding program, they're already losing money. They're in it more for the responsibility and the experience of doing this. There's already a lot of fees associated with this, and a lot of costs associated with the program already. I mean, pigs and steers and yeah,
What are we doing with
exactly. And to be
yeah,
honest with you,
that was my whole thing. I'm like,
if it's $5 or $20, yeah, we're gonna make $100. Why? It's not worth it.
Yeah.
To be honest with you,
And
is my
then the
thought. They're doing the process, they're getting the paperwork. That should be fee enough.
And then the dates that came in they're not in the original one.
I'm
so
sorry, say again?
The date restrictions, why was
I'm gonna let
that?
Kristen speak to that.
Okay.
So first I wanted to address the four youth per parcel. I think in extremely unique cases that you might have multiple children on similar lots, I think that would be a good place for a special permit for those kids to where they still have the opportunity. It's not a blanket that everybody gets to do it, but say a family has 5 or 6 kids and they have a yard that say like Debbie or Emmanuel or somebody could inspect and say, yep, they can absolutely have this many animals in a safe environment, and then you guys can approve it. And if there's a problem, that gives you a way to control it. So that would be my suggestion there. And then I kind of reiterate myself on, I don't think there should be a time restriction on these projects. Just a reminder, these are youth projects around education and growth and development. These aren't people raising herds in their backyard. These are temporary projects. You know, think about one kid, they have a handful of years to do it, and then it's done.
Yeah, I like the idea of the special permit for more than 4 kids. My question is, who's approving it? Is that Nora? Is it Bailey? Because I don't know that we want
Do we have a
to come to
committee?
council all the time with these special permits.
And it might not even be worth putting in writing if it's gonna be such a rare situation, because as soon as you put it in writing, then you
Yeah,
can.
what's the level of approval?
So in the past, it was community development that did the approval of permits. I know when I filled out permits, it went to Nora when she was in charge of community development.
And that's how we
You
would,
have the sole, like,
Yes.
yea or nay. Now, what if I was fighting with you?
yeah,
You didn't like my family?
maybe an appeal process that would elevate it.
I'm just.
The same, it would be the
You know what, I'm
same,
asking a
Right.
valid question.
Yeah, you're right.
oh, you are.
Yeah.
And it would be the same process as if you came to get a business license. I mean, we have to go through the process.
Yeah,
To do that. And then if you're denied that,
then there's an appeal
there's
process.
an appeal process, which then you guys would end up.
Okay, that's fine.
Or I would end up seeing it as the town manager, and then
Yeah.
you guys would.
I'm good with that. This is only a discussion item. We're not
Yes.
taking action, but I appreciate, this is like, I'm not sure what the term is, community legislation. These are people that are advising us based on their experience, right, with the kids. And I know all of you in this room are responsible animal people, so I would hope you would be able to police the kids, and I think you can.
I got a couple questions, Randy.
Sure.
When you sign up for 4-H, does the leader normally go by the home once, twice, never? How does that work?
When you sign up for 4-H, usually the leader.
FA, either one.
The leader at least goes by once, to see what's going on.
Once period or once a month? Kind of
Once.
give me an idea.
Once period usually. But you have to understand, every child is given a training called quality assurance. And in order to stay within the 4-H program, they have to live up to their quality assurance training. And their training is an in-depth training. It's about an hour and a half to 3 hours, where they learn about how to treat their animals, what they have to do for their animals. Now, I've been in this process for about 13 years. And in 13 years, I've had 2 people call me from the town of Parker where we had a complaint. One of them was he thought that the flies that were coming into his yard was caused by a 4-H project. So unannounced, I went to the house, visited the home, and it was amazing back there. The pins were clean, everything was clean. They had no idea it was coming, which I try to do so that, I can get a true idea. And when I went and looked, I invited him over. The neighbor, I said, come on over, let's look at these pins and tell me how they could do better. And when he came over, he looked at the pins. 2 days later, he was in my office and he was like, I will never complain again. Because I've looked over that fence now every day, and you're absolutely right. Never, ever had another complaint from that neighbor. Now, I did have a state inspector come down. It wasn't a 4-H pen, but it was an FFA pen. It wasn't in the town of Parker. It was outside the town of Parker. But she immediately called me and she said, you need to come down here. So I went down, and indeed, the pen was needed to be clean. Gave notice to the FFA advisor, who was Dawn at that time. She had the child clean up that pen, and we never had a problem again. Sometimes it's just kids try to be kids. You tell them to clean up their room, and they don't clean up their room. But as soon as you catch them not cleaning up their room, then all of a sudden you're on top of them and you keep that going. Most of my kids I'm proud of all the kids who have a 4-H program. They work hard. They take care of their animals. These animals are not cheap. I don't know how many of you are in the 4-H program, but to go out and buy a rabbit can be anywhere from $150 to $400. That's a rabbit. They go up from there. So you can imagine they're taking care of these animals because it's hard to replace them. When it comes to the breeding program, we have very few kids who are interested in the breeding program, but the kids who are interested in the breeding program, they work very hard. They keep their area clean. I've been to backyards and didn't even realize they had animals there. But their pens are immaculate. They have a lot of money involved, and if you ask them, regardless of what it is, they're more than willing to show you. Most of them are involved in the FFA program. And the FFA program, that's an educational program offered through the school, and part of that is their SAE, and part of their SAE is their breeding project. So it all goes back to education to these youth, and I hate us to be able to say, we have an FFA program, we have an SAE available, but you're limited to one animal to take to fair, when they could have a breeding program who would teach them a whole bunch. More importantly, it would give them a little bit of entrepreneurship. Yes, as they age out of the programs, then they're going to need to move their animals someplace else because they're no longer going to be 4-H and FFA kids. We also have kids that show year-round. They show, 2 or 3 animals, sometimes 4, all over the state. And our kids from La Paz County are very well-known. When you go to any of the SALA shows or you go to any of the national shows, you say we're from Parker, Arizona, and they're like, oh, I know so-and-so. I know Caitlin Hummyumpty. Well, I know, because they know what the kids do and how they portray themselves and their animals. They're well taken care of animals. And the final thing I wanted to talk to you about was, I do not want to be the person who has to go to a family who has 6 kids in their family and say, you need to choose which one of your kids can have an animal. Now, I don't mind saying to them, all of you can have sheep or goats, or all of you can have a swine, but I don't want to say you have to pick and choose, because that's not fair to any family member to have to pick. As long as they have the space and it's a comfortable space, then I'm hoping you will approve their ability to have a special clause for those families that have more than the 4 allocated slots available. And Dusty, you had a question?
I think you more or less answered all of them.
Okay.
But, honestly, this is for the kids, and I'm the one always complaining about this town not having something to hang our hat on, which is another story, but this is absolutely in line with that. These are the residents.
Yeah, and I just think, I'm okay with the special use permit thing for more kids, but the parameters are gonna be more important than ever as far as cleanliness and all that, if you have more than 4. I mean, it's important if you have 1, but if you have 6 or 7, it's really important, so.
Yeah.
Just to answer your question, I know Mr. Munoz isn't here, but FFA has to, I think Mr. Munoz goes and checks on each animal monthly, and then there's a special student position where the student is one of the older classroommen that goes by every month too, to go check on the pens and everything.
But, and I would be the one who would be the police once you guys called us out. I would be the one that goes out and inspects the pens. It's easy to say that our volunteers will do that, but my volunteers they're volunteers. And I already expect, probably 20 hours a month from them just to be able to be a leader. So to expect even more is harder. But like I said, within the last, I'm so sorry. Within the,
Mute your electronic device?
sorry.
She came in after I said that.
I'm sorry. But, so I would be the one that would go out, and I would be the one that would inspect, and I would be the one that reported back. But I wouldn't I wouldn't notify anybody that I was coming.
I know you did a lot of that. My kids, I was just teasing you, but you did a great job, and I know a lot. Kelly McGuire, I know that you're here. Thank you so much for doing all that you've done with the FFA. I know that you've come over to our house and sheared and did this, that, and the other. Debbie, you're wonderful, and all the people that are involved in your group and organization. And thank you to Mrs. Nelson as well. Thank you.
I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
So if I'll use a swine. You decide to bring your swine back home after the La Paz County Fair. Is that part of a breeding program? Because normally 7 days after the fair, that animal has to not be back at your home. So if it's not part of a breeding program, which I'm not sure we would know if it is, does that mean you can remove your animal after the fair and put it back in your backyard?
I don't believe so. If it's not a 4-H or FFA project or a breeding program or a show animal that they're taking to continuous shows, then no, they wouldn't come back. And I can tell you that most of our kids, they'll be ready to be, have their animal off their.
Because
Would that be
I'm
a
reading,
special
in-
use
well,
permit that they would have to file for that?
I mean,
No, I don't,
No?
I don't think
Kids
so.
are currently a part of 4-H
They bring it
right
back?
now. Like how many, just to paint a realistic picture, how many kids are we talking?
Throughout the county,
Well, in the
164.
town of Parker.
Within the town of Parker, I would say maybe 30.
Okay, thanks.
Is there anybody here that,
Program, I only have 2 that's involved in a long-term breeding program.
because I do know that there have been cases where, in previous years, people did purchase a pig, and I'll just say it was in my neighbor's backyard 3 months after the fair, and I'm like, hey, what's happening here? So I'm just trying to really get clarification that if you're not part of a program, which I'm not sure we would know that they are, they change their mind, they buy their own pig, and it's back in their backyard because they want to raise it so they can slaughter it themselves. How do we, that's not really part of a program, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's,
Oh,
that happens.
yeah, we could
Brought their pig home, Dusty.
go ahead and.
Pig was sold.
And we could verify it with the youth as they sign up for the program to, so that we could give you the
Okay.
information prior to. And if for some reason anything changes, we certainly can give you heads up prior to
Okay.
that as well.
Okay.
Couldn't that be something included on the permitting process? What's the plan for,
Sorry.
what's the expiration date of this project?
Because if your pig's sifted, technically you have to remove that animal. And it's going back to your backyard.
I think that's definitely the difference between a regular permit and a special permit is, yeah.
We need that clarification, because when I'm reading it here, that doesn't fit.
So for that clarification, my suggestion is you have a permit for 4-H youth project for our county fair, right? So those are usually termination projects.
Right.
You have a permit for the extra kids per lot, so if you have multiple kids. And then you have a permit for breeding projects, and then you'll know exactly who you have what permits for.
Right, and that's why I asked that question, because I think clarification, when a pig arrives back in the backyard, we need to know what's the circumstance, and that clarifies that.
And we don't support that, obviously, because that's not a youth project, right? So, and I don't know if the paper that you have shows under E about a special use permit maybe applied for breeding projects. Does that show under yours?
yes,
Might be in yellow, okay. So that would be that permit that I was speaking to.
that we already, I think we already had that,
Okay.
I feel like. Is there anyone in here that would like to, that has an issue with this, that would like to speak? Everybody's good? Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, we'll adjourn this work session, call the regular meeting to order. Roll call of council.
Mayor Hartless.
Here.
Vice Mayor Lucas. Here. Councilmember Shantz.
Here.
Councilmember Daniels.
Present.
Councilmember De Leon.
Here.
Councilmember Waddell. Councilmember Hooper.
All right, join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for Louis Marsh's incredible invocation after. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you that we can gather here today as free people in a free land. We pray that you will give us wisdom and guide and direct our decisions so that we will become even more free and we will become even more faithful in using the resources you've given us to make a better life for everyone in this town and region. And we thank you for this in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right. We'll call to the public. We have one request from John Chamberlain.
evening. My name is John Chamberlain. I'm your new fire chief for the Parker Fire District. I also serve as the chief for Buckskin. I started this position in May of this year, and on an interim basis, I'm happy to announce that I accepted the permanent position as of July 9th. So you're stuck with me for a couple of years at least. We'll just go with that. My previous career of 28 years was all in California. However, I'm going to tell you that the same challenges exist regardless of the jurisdiction. I bring with me the challenge of developing a strategic plan and visioning. I'll be reaching out to the community, the allied agencies, as well as the town of Parker, the county of La Paz, and the state of Arizona on any ideas that you may have moving forward on issues that we may have collectively. My career has been focused around collaboration and cooperation. My tenure here will be no different. We've already started outreach and cooperative efforts in the community, as well as community risk reduction, education, and responses to emergency situations to minimize community impact and contribute to the best possible outcome. Some examples of that would have been collaborating directly with the county when the Kinder Morgan pipeline went down, as well as cooling centers, et cetera, that you already have in place when we had the cell phone disaster and everything else happening last month. I'm looking forward to working with you all in the future, and I just wanted to put a face with a name. I believe in the philosophy of how are you, not who are you in the time of need. And I'll be available if you have anything for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. All right, our next item is Chamber Director's Report. Aaron Yukon.
Good evening, Mayor Hartless, Town Council, and everyone else. The Chamber report for today, we have a couple events that are coming up. And August 22nd, there's 3 different events going on. AWC is offering through Small Business Development Centers 2 no-cost business counseling classes. One of these classes is located in Quartzsite. The other one's located in Parker at the AWC Learning Center. The one in Parker is from 1 to 3. Again, that is this Thursday, August 22nd. It's good for entrepreneurs, current business owners, and those seeking business counseling. Soccer registration is ongoing through August 31st. September 9th through October 15th, the Parker Community Center is hosting a workshop for chronic disease and self-management. Another one through AWC and the Small Business Development Centers, they're hosting a youth entrepreneurial skills training class. This class is in person in Yuma, but there's also a Zoom link attached to it. It is not posted on our website or our calendar yet. We just received this information, but I wanted to go ahead and give everyone the heads up on that. It's a great opportunity for the kids. August 31st, Buckskin is hosting a fire station tour from 10 to 11. Our next mixer is September 19th at the Elks Lodge from 5:30 to 7 p.m. The Chamber has been very busy coordinating our temporary location and the possibility of our new location. It looks like on the regular agenda, there's number 5, and we'll go through that then. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. But we will be closed from September 11th through September 17th. We will reopen at our temporary location, which is at the Joshua Street Mall, Suite K, on September 18th. We've also been busy applying for a marketing match program through the Arizona Office of Tourism. I'll have more updates on that during the next meeting. And we are in discussion about increasing our ambassador program. What that ambassador program does is our volunteer efforts from our business community, their spouses, and other individuals as well, but it also includes beautification in that ambassador program. So please keep a lookout once our team puts a plan together in regards to our ambassador program. In relation to the event that I talked about last week or during our last meeting, please just keep an eye out for a Zoom link that'll come hopefully this week or next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. All right, our next item is our consent agenda. Items which are considered routine may be enacted by one motion. Do we have a motion for item A and B? It's been moved and seconded to approve the Town of Parker meeting minutes from August 6, 2024, and the adoption of Chapter 47 of the proposed Parker Police Department Policy and Procedure Handbook.
I have a question, Randy.
Yes.
Because of the executive session and I was not here, should I reflect that I was not part of the executive session? No? Okay. Then
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motions carry. Regular agenda item 1, discussion and action to approve deny purchase of 2 Motorola APX 4500 radios. including installation for $14,090. Chief Bailey.
Forget the 78 cents.
We're not paying that.
It's rounded up. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here before you to ask permission to purchase 2 Motorola APX 4500 radios with installation. As you can see, the amount is $14,090.78. We're in the wrong business because this is expensive. The police department needs to purchase 2 Motorola radios to be installed in 2 vehicles that are being used by officers. Currently, those 2 officers are using handheld radios. With the addition of the officers and the vehicles that we were short 2 radios. This is a budgeted item for fiscal year 24-25 through capital improvement projects, and the purchase through Motorola is with the State of Arizona contract number CTR 046830, State of Arizona. Basically breaks down to $7,045.39 for each radio.
Any questions? Motion?
So moved.
And seconded. I'm assuming to approve the
To
purchase
approve, yep.
of the radios. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 2, discussion action to approve, deny appointment of Morris Savata to the Streets and Traffic Advisory Board. Amy?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Pretty much what it is. We'd like to appoint Mr. Savata to the Streets and Traffic Advisory Board. The committee is all on board with having him as well, and we're just trying to fill all the empty seats on our different committees right now.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 3, discussion action to approve, deny repeal of Resolution 11, 2024 relating to a rate schedule for water user charges. Amy?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We took a vote on this at the last meeting. We have brought back everything for you. Would like to start the process over. There was some confusion.
We
with-
goofed up.
Yeah.
The
There
bottom
was-
line.
Yeah, there was some confusion, so we just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page and that we're all, agreeing to the same thing and that everybody understands it fully. So we'd like to repeal this resolution. There was no mistake. It was just confusion on
Yeah.
everybody's part as to what was being adopted, how the rate structure would be going out.
Yeah, it was not clear, trust me. And we can discuss it now, or the next item.
Item will
Okay.
clarify what.
I'll make a motion to repeal Resolution 11, 2024.
Second, third it.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 4, discussion action to approve, deny Resolution 13, 2024, adopting a notice of intent to increase water service rates or rate components, fees, or service charges, and setting a public hearing date on November 5th, 2024. Alternative 4, recommendation from the RCAC water rate study. Does that mean it's going on the ballot, or is that a regular council?
No, that's a regular council
Okay.
meeting, first Tuesday in November.
Okay. All right. Steve, you gonna take this?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before I begin, I do want to clear up a few things. It's disappointing to see in the paper how the information that was presented to this council, which will now be the 4th time, has all been correct from day one. Nothing has changed. The information is the same. And this presentation, in which I'm going to give to you today, is the same information that was provided to the council in the initial one with the results from the water rate study on May 23rd. This information has not changed one bit. I think the confusion is, and the disappointment on my part is that I've presented this information to the council multiple times, and I try to include all of the important and pertinent information so you, as a council, can make an informed decision. I spend time putting these things together, and I think about that. So the information that was put in the paper in regards to town staff or the town manager and town staff making or providing or presenting incorrect information is completely false. And that's what the paper portrayed. So this presentation, please ask as many questions as you feel is needed to clarify for yourselves on what we are actually doing here. I've tried to make it as simple and as understanding as possible. So I'm here to answer any questions. Even after this point, you know, if you have any further information that you or further questions, please reach out to me. I'm happy to answer all your questions.
Yeah, Steve, I think the confusion, I don't think it's the fault of the newspaper. What's the meter size average of a home on this base rate? Is it 5/8, 3/4, 1 inch, or they're all different?
Average size is a 5/8 or 3/4 inch meter.
Okay,
So the majority of the meters in town are that size.
I think the issue was, somebody said, I believe it was Councilman De Leon, said something about a 40% increase, and everybody went, oh, and we go, no. But he was right, in a sense.
No, he was
Well,
incorrect.
If we're going from $10 to $24, that's a 150% increase.
134%,
Okay.
but that's not what the 40% increase that you saw on the original, actually on all four, including this one, which you'll see, is what I'm speaking of.
Right. And to me, that was the confusing part to the public. I didn't want,
And I understand, but I've said, I've presented this material. It's the same material that I presented on day one back in May. And so this information
yeah, I don't
has not
disagree with that.
changed.
It was more of our discussion to the public that
Okay.
got messed up, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then whenever I brought that up, it was just something that I saw up on the screen that kind of jumped out at me like, whoa, is that 40% from year one or present to the next step? But you pointed out that it was over that full time span and clarified that, so.
You're repealing, nothing's changed, but we repeat.
Nothing has changed. So I want to present this, if I could.
I'm not confused on any of your information. It was clear.
I could present this information I think you'll better understand what is happening. So if I may.
Sure, yep.
So these are the rates from 2021 that we currently have in place. They have not changed. So in particular, Mayor, what you're speaking of is the 5/8, 3/4. The $10.54 is the majority of the meters that we have in town and what those customers are being charged on a monthly basis just for the base rate. It does not include this, which is the commodity rate. Now, hopefully all of you understand the difference between the base rate and the commodity rate. Commodity rate is the amount of water you are using at your home or business. And so that's why you see those amounts, 25,000, 0 to 25,000, $2.49. Anything over 25,000 gallons, $3.20. Per thousand. Any questions on that? With no change, the water fund would continue to operate in the red. That's the reason why we are doing this, and use monies from the general fund in order to operate. Currently, the $146,000 you see down below there, that's what we take out of the general fund in order to operate the water department. right now. We are and have been taking money to operate that department or that fund. And so thus, that's why we did this rate study, to come up with new rates, to then make up that difference, to get to that point where we're no longer pulling money from the general fund, that it can actually operate by itself and support itself. And also at the same time, create a capital reserve, so then we can actually do major repairs and improvements on the system without having to take additional monies from the general fund and or get grants. And so that's
We've been drawing that money out.
4 years.
4 years.
At which number? The lower one or the?
The
or
lower
average
numbers.
of-
So now the 286 is a projected amount of what we're going to be taking out of that general fund if we don't do a change to our rates.
Well, and, I mean, at the end of the day, that to me is what's more important. If it's a 5% increase or a 500% increase, it has to be done, or we're not operating smartly or fiscally sound.
The town will go bankrupt.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to not do it. And the other thing about the alternative base rate, it is a significant increase in year one, but after that, it's more gradual. That significant increase is what's going to get us on track.
Correct.
And then it'll gradually increase, so.
Correct.
Yeah,
Well, the public also has to know that this is not a for-profit.
yeah.
We're just trying to pay for everything.
We're trying to not subsidize the water so much.
Yes. We don't want to subsidize the water department or water fund with the general fund.
The users need
It
to
has
pay
to
for
be
it.
a self-sustaining fund and department.
And we don't have
currently, it has not
we don't
been.
have a property tax in town. I mean, this makes sense to me, it has to be done. I just thought it was very unclear, the amount of the increase. The numbers were all right. And again, I wouldn't blame you or the newspaper, I think those were what was said. I just did want people to go, oh, less than 40%, and then see this and go, wait a minute, that's more than 40%, you know, so I think it needs to be done, and I support it, but I just thought it was, and the unclearness was from us, probably from me in particular, but that's the reason I wanted to get it straightened and square with the public.
All right, so this slide is kind of what was been thrown around as the 40%. So the theoretical base rate is the amount that we need to get to as a base rate to actually have the ability to be self-sustaining and then build that capital reserve. So $35.49 is what we need to get to. So the $24 is what we're going to, is 40% of that number. That's what the 40% came from. So when you say theoretical, yes, so it has to include all, this is what we're trying to achieve. We won't get there in this 5 years of this particular rate study and rate changes. We're going to be doing another one after that to eventually get to that. Now, that may change, but this is the 40%, this is where it came from.
So I guess my other question is, why November 5th? That seems like a long way out. Were we gonna,
We're required to
Okay.
actually post it for 60 days.
Okay.
So now, this was really going to throw off all of the financials because we were supposed to
by
start.
2 weeks?
No, for 6 months. We won't be able to actually implement these until January. So essentially, we're losing six months worth of, 5 months worth of revenue.
But it wasn't because we redid it, because we just did this 2 weeks ago.
Yes, they actually were taking effect in August. So this month's bill would have had this.
Well, I'm so confused now. So 2 weeks ago, when we approved this, it would have taken effect in August.
Correct.
But because we repealed it now,
Right. So at the advice of our attorneys, it's best that for public knowledge, that we just redo this process.
The whole
It was
process.
heavily recommended that we make sure that everybody in the room understands the information that has been presented, what we're doing, being clear and consistent consistent with that message and making sure that that's understood.
Also gives them time to comment, correct?
Yeah, we will have
public.
another
And it
public.
cost us, what,
Mhm.
$75,000-ish for that 6 months?
But when was the public comment? Was that 2 weeks ago? Okay, okay.
Yes.
And
We did
so-
that public comment prior to the meeting last week.
Right, so the two prior council meetings in which the information was presented, where we actually set that hearing date of, at the last meeting, this information was provided then, so that's where that 60 days comes from the May time period. So this slide pretty much tells it all. We are currently at $10.54 for our 5/8 3/4 meters, and we are going from that rate to $24.74 in year one. So everything in green is what the new rates are gonna be if this goes through and passes come November, when you have the public hearing and you then adopt the new rates, if you choose to.
And that price just includes the meter, doesn't include any water, correct?
That is just the base rate, nothing with the actual amount of water that you're using. So the current rates, the current commodity rates will remain intact until the FY 25-26 year. That's the first year in which we actually will increase the base rate a little bit and increase the commodity rate a little bit. So from years, for those last 4 years, or those next 4 years after this year, it'll be a little bit of both, similar to what we've always done on the base rates and the commodity rates.
So if we have the public hearing on November 5th, and then you're saying when we could officially begin the rate increase would be,
So for posting requirements, we adopt in 60 days.
right?
And then 30 days after that, we can do the charges, which puts us right at Christmas. So
December.
The first of the year was just
Okay.
kind of the new billing
January
cycle.
1st.
With the billing cycle, it would be the bill that's due on January 15th for everybody. So the one that I send out right before New Year's.
Christmas present.
Okay.
To lend some perspective as to what the other communities outside of town charge, EPCOR, for instance, their base rate currently is $23, and has been that for since.
That's upriver?
That's upriver. They took over the system. So they did have an increase because they are obviously trying to do the same thing that the town is trying to do. They're doing a lot of infrastructure repairs to their system upriver. So it is very in line with what is commonly charged right now.
And they're a for-profit company. They're not,
They are for-profit.
they don't have taxpayers to
Correct.
subsidize. Okay. All right.
Their water isn't as good as ours, so.
So hopefully that kind of explains things on what we're trying to do. This item is essentially the resolution and setting these, the date for November 5th for the hearing, and then hopefully adoption of these rates through the resolution.
Good. All right.
Approve.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion, questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Mayor and council.
Thank you. Item 5, discussion and action to approve, deny lease agreement with the Parker Regional Chamber of Commerce and Tourism for the easement on 8th Street, north of California Avenue. Nora.
Good evening. Okay, so we spoke quite a lot here. We know the chamber has got to move. So right now, we're asking that to approve a lease agreement for the portion of Town Street right-of-way located between California and the railroad on 8th Street. It dead ends there. It's about 100 by 125 foot lot. I say lot, it's actually the street. The chamber has given us a proposal for that lease. We've done several leases of like this in town. In fact, the one on 8th Street on the other side of the railroad tracks, we have leased to Bob Longo. We usually do it, it's for $1,000 a year. Most of them are for 20 years. I think we have one out there for 30 years. The chamber is asking for a 99-year lease. I don't know if that's a really great idea, but we can kind of speak on that. The property is located in Block 120. It's near all commercial zoning in there. There is in your packet, a plot plan, kind of, that shows where it's at. If you look, it's next to the ice house, in between the ice house and the propane place right across from what is now the donut shop. They would like to do a metal building. They do have, I think they are pretty close, if haven't already gotten some funding for that building. I know they will have at least a portion of that. They may have to borrow on that, and with that, is why they need such a long lease, but I'm not sure. They would be able to cover the insurance on that and cover us on the insurance. We wouldn't have to do any kind of rezoning on that. The only other thing that they really ask us for is if we could at least help with signage, which I think we could, and we could use that bed tax money out of that, because we could put that in with advertising for some of our things here in town. The other thing that I had asked for in talking with all of this is that they put in a 10-foot easement on that property on the side where the propane is, so that the people down the street can actually get behind and use the alley portion of that. They would obviously apply for all the appropriate permits and get all the approvals and things. I think it's kind of a win-win for the town and also the chamber. It gives them a good location. I did speak with ADOT and just for the turn there to make sure that people doing a left turn there wouldn't stack, or ADOT wouldn't have an issue. In speaking with Jerry, he didn't think that there would be. They would have to apply for a permit through ADOT, which is pretty standard. But they didn't really see any.
But people are already turning into the ice house anyway.
Yes.
I mean, you would just want a better
Well, right. They just want to make sure that it doesn't.
better mark, I guess.
They just want to make sure that that they don't stack there. They turn into the ice house, not very many people at a time, obviously. We may get 2 or 3. We may only have 1, we don't know. Going into we would hope we would have 2 or 3 going in, but any issues, and that turn lane there would be fine. They wouldn't have to put in anything else.
Would there ever be a scenario where, like, the chamber, I hope it never happens, but ceases to exist, and then what happens to the lease? I didn't see anything in here that would.
So I believe in the lease itself,
Okay, thank you.
in the lease itself, I believe there is a term where we can term it, or they can term it.
Yep, 90 days.
In a 90-day period.
Reason.
Well, that was,
But I
that's
guess,
under the automatic renewal one.
There's a 30-day before the automatic renewal.
Right.
it might be asking, like, if they build this building and then in 10 years they dissolve as a entity,
then who holds the lease, and what would happen to the lease at that point?
They would terminate the lease,
And it reverts to the
and it would
town.
reverse back to the
But the
town.
Will there be
building-
language in there that says that?
Building,
Yeah,
Building?
building. Because there's
On our
value in the
property,
building.
It's permanent
so-
on ours, so it belongs to us.
Well,
Would.
if it's not in the language, if it doesn't belong,
It is,
doesn't.
under the surrender.
Gotcha, okay, I just want to clarify that. No more confusions.
Okay, I have a couple of questions.
better not dissolve.
Is there room for the ice house for people to still pull in there?
There should be, yes.
Okay, and the other one on the gas company,
Mm-hmm.
because they exit to the non-existing street now, do they have room to pull in and out?
That's why we're doing the 10-foot easement.
And that's
On
gonna be
that
enough for
side,
those trucks?
should be plenty.
There's
for-
other businesses that access that. They can't get into the front of their business.
I have another question.
Mm-hmm.
Item 10, sublease and assignment.
Yes.
We have economic development is in their building. So what happens there?
We can make some exceptions. I mean, that's something that you guys can, you know, if you want to put some restrictions on that they can only sublease to. That's why we're bringing it here tonight for you guys to ask these questions, and also, they may also want to, at some point, put in the museum. So we could give, you know, we could put that in the language as well.
Well, I would like to see that economic development's still there,
Okay?
not stand on the corner.
So Mayor and Council, sorry
Yes.
to interrupt, but just so you know, I mean, the way that it's phrased in the lease right now, they can sublease as long as they have your written consent. So we just envision that as if they have someone that they want to sublease to, they would just bring it back to council, you'd approve it.
Great. That's all I have.
What'd you say? What other building did you say? Where was it?
Eddie's Marine.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a difficult process, to be honest with you. We've been working on it for months, and
Months.
things keep falling apart. My original ideal of putting it in the park, I thought was the best one, but some people didn't like it, so we've switched gears and tried to find a place, and it hasn't been easy. So this was to me, a good compromise for us, for them. I don't know.
Yeah, good idea.
I didn't even realize that existed over there. I just thought it was a big parking lot. I didn't know it was
It would
town.
never be used anyway, really. It was just a dead end
Yeah.
traffic deal, so.
I think this economically is probably the best thing for them.
Yeah.
We're not
And
having
then-
to pay for that.
Scratch too, 'cause you can build it the way you want it.
You know, and I've had some people come up to me and go, $1,000, that's pretty cheap. And then when I argued back, it was, look at the economic impacts that the chamber has done for the town. And things
Yeah.
over the weekends, I mean, there's been a large.
We're not
number
doing
of
it to make money,
Right.
obviously.
Make it 1,001, I'll pay the.
But it's 1,000 more than we're getting right now for that lot also. But I agree with you. There's a big picture here that we need to think about, so. Did you want to say something, Aaron?
I think you guys are actually covering it. I'm good.
As far as the term, I mean, nobody in the room is going to be here in 99 years, so
Jerry will.
if we did it less, I would be okay with that. But I think we need to give them security.
So normally, if you go for a bank loan, you're going to go for a 30-year loan. And the banks typically like to do 10 years, at least a 10-year after that 30,
Sure.
after it. So even, you know, a 40-year lease with the term of, you know,
50-year lease.
you could do a 50-year lease. I mean, you can do it at
I mean, 30, 50, 100, it's all long,
That's what I mean.
long time.
right. You just want to make sure that you get enough in there that they can get that loan should they
Sure.
need it.
Does that sound accurate, loan lady over there? Okay.
10 years, and interest rates are gonna go down to 2%.
I mean, they might even cut them out, no, just kidding. Yeah.
Randy,
What's the term now on the lease?
99 years.
99,
Right now, they're asking for 99.
What are the other ones in town? Do we know?
20.
20, yeah.
but those are for commercial type or just easement type of
And they're going to have to get a loan. So most banks, like you say, probably a 30-year.
30 years? I would-
And then at first I kind of had heartburn on the 99 year, but then I'm like, well, you know, at some point, if they go for other funding, they're gonna say, well, how long's your lease? So I never want them to be in a situation where the lease isn't long enough for something they want to do in addition, 10 or 20 years from now, they're like, oh, that lease isn't long enough, when really, what else is gonna go there that makes sense compared to this?
Well, if you did 40, I mean, it doesn't mean you can't renew after
Right.
40. The
Or even after 30.
40
Yeah,
years.
but when you go
the-
for grants, they wanna know how long is
But
that
then Nora,
lease?
you asked, like, 99 years you felt it was too long, but why?
I just feel like it's kind of like our agreements. We just keep letting them go on and on.
Seems
You
like
kind
an
of- you want-
incredibly long time.
Yeah, you want to review those every once
Revisit
in a
some
while.
things.
But we have it in here to do
Like the
that.
robotic chamber staff coming back in 99 years to
Yeah,
ask the robotic council
Yeah.
to redo it.
Do,
I just
look at
I
things.
just see the big picture. It's just such a good deal for the town.
Well, bank-wise, 30 years, 40 years is good.
30 plus 10 is really, really good.
I would like to see 50-year. I don't, that's my
Make a motion.
idea. I make a motion that we do and accept the term, but only modify that the lease term be 99 years.
I mean,
To
250 year, or do you want it 99?
No, I want it 50. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
with,
I just wanted to create more confusion. I don't want you-
I'm going to second that, and then we can keep discussing.
and is that with 10-year renewals after that?
Yes.
10-year renewals, is that what you want? Then put that in the discussion and I'll.
Like you would renew it after the 50 and then every 10.
Every
Give it
10
another
years
10.
it would,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that either, so I'll add that to my motion.
Okay.
And that's where-
I'll second that then. But any more discussion on, this is important, right? I still wanted to see it on Riverside, so traffic from both ends could get to it, but the chamber's been there for, what, since 1955 or something, at that current location. So we're flipping the script now, we're getting everybody coming from this end, which is probably a lot more traffic,
Perfect, time for change.
I'm guessing, so it's still not ideal, but it's better in some ways.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
If this is approved tonight, how soon would you be doing construction?
I have meetings scheduled with contractors next week. As soon as we approve everything with our board, we will move forward. So hopefully 30, 60 days. I mean, it's going to take a little bit.
Wait, what, for the construction?
Start.
To begin.
Oh,
If we're-
say, wow.
No. So we'll meet with the contractors,
contractors.
go through our approval process, and then
So you
move
really do
forward.
have robots over there. Wow, okay. Because, I mean, this is it now. We've, months of work and it's all come to this. So if everybody's good with it. Yeah, if you guys have concerns, I'd love to hear them. It's not really a public hearing, but it's an important matter, so. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. I didn't hear you guys say anything in regards to the non-renewal compensation. In the event that there's a non-renewal during those 10 years, we are asking for compensation for the building.
During the 10 years.
So like it goes 50 years.
Right.
And if you choose not to renew the lease for any reason, we're asking for compensation for that at 2.5% increase for inflation, which takes it up to, well, during the 99 years, it would take it up to 5.2 million. So we would have
Is
to
that
redo the
currently
math.
Written in your proposal?
It is
There
currently
is
written
something
in the
there, but it's
proposal.
based on the 99 year.
It's based on the 99
So the
years. with
price would be like 2.5 million or something.
Christina,
Christina, what is our,
It's exponential,
Mayor
so
and
it's a little
council.
different.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, so that provision, just to be clear, was problematic, right? Because in 99 years, but even 50 years, we actually don't really know what the value would be. And so it would be better if you decide you want to do that, because what you're doing essentially is locking in the town that if you don't renew this lease now, you have to pay something out.
right, we have.
So if you want to do that, I would just suggest that it would be at fair market value versus
Yeah.
a specific amount.
dollar
That's
amount.
exactly what I was thinking. That's perfect.
Perfect.
But that protects you guys from some future council saying, get out, it's our building. you know, if you get kicked out, they have to pay you, basically, so.
We will
I agree
not
with that.
do what the
Do I
railroad
have to
did to
amend
you.
that?
We won't do what the railroad did.
We're not gonna railroad you.
Kind.
Intended.
Hey, Christina, I do have to amend
Yes.
my motion, so I want to add that, but how do I have to state that?
Sure.
Where,
You can just tell, I mean, that's essentially if you don't renew, that it's fair market
Yeah,
value
that's what I
payout.
want to do. So that's
That's
my.
fine, we'll
that's
add
Yeah,
my-
those words.
Yeah,
Plus the 50-year, yeah.
okay.
So Randy, you gonna second that amendment?
Well, I thought she said I didn't need an amendment. It's the
No.
will of the council telling her how we
Well,
want.
no, a second is good. A
Okay.
second
Second
is
is
yes.
good, yeah.
'cause we're adding,
Fine.
yes.
Second, I'll second the amendment.
What'd you second?
So
the motion?
50-year lease, renewable
10.
every 10 years, and
Fair market value.
if any time in that period you're asked to leave, the town pays you fair market value
For the building.
for the building. Yeah.
Plus $1.
So next year, when the building's done, if we really like it, we'll just give you the money.
Don't build anything.
We'll do that, we promise it.
Don't put anything personal in it.
you know, this is so important for the town. I think it's and there were people talking when this first came up, well, maybe it's time for the chamber to just close. And I'm like, no, Baus has a chamber. Come on, everybody has you have to have a chamber of commerce. It's so important. And I'm not saying that because I worked there. I did work there, but yeah, I just know the mission and I know how important it is. And I think it's great that we're being able to help in some way because the options were getting pretty thin there.
Yeah, 'cause Aaron,
and costly.
what was your tube flow, just alone, tube flow? What were the numbers, just to remind
The
everybody?
low estimate was 1.2 million.
Yeah, so we got a shot in the arm of
Yeah.
$1.2 million from the
That's
chamber.
what the
so-
public has to realize.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not just the only thing they do. They bring in an enormous amount of money.
Yeah. Yep. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion, questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations. Right. Finally, you got something to Thank you, Christina. All right. Item 6, discussion and action to approve, deny, update conditional use permit with ownership information from Semco to Desert Properties of the Southwest LLC for APN 307510023B. Nora.
So tonight, I asked for authorization for staff to update the conditional use that we did in 2021 for Simcoe, which was the property that Sean Martin owned, to Desert Properties of the Southwest LLC, which now Mike Kelly owns. We put in the conditional use, the very first stipulation was that if any changes in use, technology, or change in ownership shall require an approval from the town of Parker's mayor and council and shall be based on the operational expense, financial stability, and technical abilities. Mr. Kelly has been the owner of this property now for about, I want to say almost a year now. You guys had given the conditional use for the refurbishing plants back in 2021. He's now kind of put that a little bit on the side. It still will probably happen, but he is ready to start the phase 2, which is the liquid side of things. Not that, we're not really voting on that tonight. We're voting whether to either go ahead and get this conditional use in Mr. Kelly's name or just denying it altogether, I guess, at this time.
So let's see.
Make a motion to approve.
Yeah, go ahead. Second, but I want to talk about this There was issues with this property, yeah? Like environmental issues, or there's never been any issues
Not on
with
this piece of
Semco?
property.
No
They
funky
had,
barrels full of stuff or anything?
not on this
Okay,
property.
all right.
And then like the
In,
water phase 2, does the state have to come in and
Yes.
approve and do all that? So it'll be oversight.
so ADAQ will have to, it's the same those same 13 stipulations are, continue with phase 2 as phase 1. The state ADAQ still has to come in and give their blessings. They have to get permits from that. They'll have to do air quality. They also have to do the runoff and all of that, stormwater runoff. They have to get the permits for all of that. So all of that, all of those same kinds of things would have to still be done.
I may be confusing Semco with Seco. Was that the name of that?
Yes,
other? Okay,
yes, you are.
Okay.
Seco was here in town,
right.
and they had all the oil and all the,
And they're not affiliated with the
they're not
Semco.
as, not at
Okay.
all with Simcoe.
So the property, it's a property in a
It is.
building?
There is no building on there.
What's this property?
It's just bare property.
How many
It's
acres?
20 acres.
20.
It's at the very end of Central Avenue out in Parker South.
And there's no current compliance issues with the town, the
Not at
county,
all.
the ADQ, or any, okay,
No,
all right. So what was the original use permit, conditional use permit? It was never used? I mean,
no, they never, it never got off the ground.
okay,
They kind of, they started it and then we kind of, they went in a different direction. That's kind of when the partners split and they worked more on the property down below.
But now Desert Properties is now wanting to move forward with the project.
They are,
and legally speaking, Christina, everything's kosher with this?
Yes, actually, I ran this also by our zoning attorney, and so this isn't even a minor amendment. This is just an ownership change, and the stipulation's just required because of that permit. It's not even required under code.
Okay,
Where they were gonna put the smelter
no,
first? No.
no. This is where they were doing the recycling of all the palm fronds and all the composting.
Bio stuff.
all right. It has been moved and seconded, so any discussion, any questions? No, hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Council member liaison reports. Anybody have anything?
I was at joint venture this morning. Our grant that we're putting in for, we had a little bit of a hiccup, so it'll be going in this Friday. And it's a 30-day turnaround. They'll let us know within.
We'll know in 30 days. Since it's a sewage treatment plant, perhaps hiccup's not the best word. Maybe a gurgle or,
Things got crappy.
all right, anybody else, anything? Announcements, Monday, August 26th, Streets and Traffic Advisory Board, 5:15. Monday, September 2nd, Labor Day, all town offices closed, and Tuesday, September 3rd, next regular council meeting. This meeting's adjourned.
Thanks, Christina.
Thanks, everyone.
Nora, probably.
Here on that Tuesday, because we got all these family coming in for Walters to go.
What day is that on?
Next